that I'm like psychotic, like literally psychopath, sociopath, something like that. I don't know exactly where she's at. She thinks I'm gonna kill her.
What caused the bleeding? She got real tight and she got the knife and she fell on it.
He was emotionless.
Did you make any statements saying that you were going to kill your mom if you got in a car with her?
No, sir.
I'm trying to figure out why we would have a corporal at the jail that took you out, that dropped you off to your mom and telling us that you said, don't put me in a car with her, I'm going to kill her.
Yeah,
Was that said?
I did not say I was gonna kill her. I did not say kill.
He's my grandson. I love him. He said, my mom, I keep thinking over and over, I want to slit her throat. I want her to bleed out. I want to smell the blood. I want to feel the blood. I want to feel the life and the blood leaving her body.
Did you tell them at the jail that you were going to kill me? Did you say you were going to hurt me?
She was telling me to shut up. She hit me in the face, and then I reacted like this. She grabbed onto me. I hit her in the stomach, and then I'm a wrestler. It was just reactive. Grabbed her. She got to the ground.
No, you didn't. You stood up and said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Murder. Yes, you did. I was there.
I was saying, I'm not a psychopath. I'm not this murderer. I'm just trying to peacefully leave or peacefully coexist and just figure something out. And she kept telling me to shut up and shut up. And when I wouldn't shut up, she hit me.
No, that's not what happened, Colin. That's not what happened.
Very aggravated at his grandmother and his mother. He said, I am so tired of these two bitches.
How long ago was your dad passed? Sorry to hear that. 7 months.
Yeah. He attacked me, my dad, and when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So,
How was that?
I shot him when he tried to kill me.
Did you already have a gun in your hand? Or did you go
I
get
was
one?
fleeing, and the house was filled with guns, 23 to be exact, and
You knew who they were?
I didn't seek one out. I was just trying to run, but when I was cornered and I had nothing else, there was a gun, and just how it happened.
Why was he trying to kill you?
He's also a bit of a case, but homophobia. If you can believe that, and other stuff.
Hold on.
I seen the lady standing on the top step, and I just seen an arm come out and grab her by the shoulder, by her hair, and I just turned my head and immediately went back into the house.
We talked all the way down, and I said, you have got to learn to get your anger under control. What? I can't hear you. What?
No.
Do you think your anger's fine?
Yes.
She's been trying to lure a confession out of me all day.
Defendant is not guilty. As to count 2, the defendant is not guilty. So say will this 5th day of February, 2025.
He's been threatening her, and he's been threatening Susan. Because there was so much malice.
Somewhere out there, the devil is dancing tonight.
I, like most people, were shocked to hear about Colin Griffith's verdict. I listened to the media. He killed both parents a year apart. He said he was gonna do it. And he called 911 and said she fell on a knife. And maybe that simplified version of events is enough for most people. Sounds guilty to me, right? But as always, the truth is never simple and never that clear. Because Colin Griffith's story has multiple layers that are completely ignored by mainstream media. His father and mother were married for 20 years, and his father got full custody and was allowed to take him out of state. That's not typical. unless there's something really wrong, you get joint custody. So for whatever reasons that we do not know, because the jury was not allowed to hear about Colin Griffith's father. They were told that he killed someone a year before by shooting them, but they did not know that it was his father that he had killed. So the background of the family was largely ignored. There were some instances presented at the trial. Instances like the mother pinned the father against the house with her car. The mother stabbed the father, and the mother claimed abuse when it wasn't true. Colin had been present for many of those instances. The father got full custody of Colin, and Colin has an older brother that we hear nothing about. That's another big question mark in this case. I think his older brother was born in 2000. He's an adult. It would be interesting to see what his take is on the whole thing, how he feels about both of his parents being killed. So we know a little bit about Colin's relationship with the father from what Colin has said, from what other people have said. Colin was not allowed to talk to the mother because when he was 12 years old, she sent him a text message of a handwritten suicide note. The father saw it and did something legally to prevent her from contacting him. So she had very limited contact with Colin per the father. Now, we know that Colin did not go to school for 3 years while the father had custody. The father was keeping him in complete isolation in that home. And Colin says it's because he found out that Colin was gay. The father did not want him pursuing that or talking to people online. And so on Valentine's Day 2023, Colin called 911, said his father tried to attack him with a knife, and he shot and killed him with a rifle. There were guns all over the house, and he was cornered, and he picked up the gun and shot him. Colin was initially charged with first-degree murder. After a month, they dropped the charges because they felt they could not prove this wasn't a self-defense case. That is very quick for them to drop everything, and I would opine that once they dug in, they found a lot of evidence of abuse and that he was kept in captivity, and they knew they were not going to win if they went down that road. So those charges were dropped. A few months later, he is released to his mother who was denied custody. And pretty quickly, things went south. There was an incident where he had a physical altercation with his mother. He had called and told a counselor at his school that his mother had pulled a gun on him and threatened him that he didn't feel safe. He was arrested for domestic violence, and he was Baker acted. And as they were releasing him to the mother, he said, "Do not let me go with her. I will kill her." He denies saying the kill word, but it was along the lines of, "I don't feel safe. Something's going to happen. She's going to do something to me or her, and I'm going to react." I think that was his general sentiment, but it was taken out of context, and they focused on the part where he said, "I will do whatever I can. I will kill her. She'll end up dead," something along those lines. This is where the state kind of tried to build their case from that statement, saying, oh, it's premeditated then, because when he was upset, he said that he wanted to kill her, or he would kill her if they released him to her. Now, this is the kid basically just saying, I would rather be in jail than go home with my mother. They were releasing him from the Baker Act, and he said it again, and then they put him on another 72-hour hold. And then said, oh, you're all better. Go back with your mother. This case illustrates a failure on so many levels. The mother appears to be the victim from the police perspective because she told them that he had just killed his father. So the cops were automatically on her side and pretty much disregarded everything Colin was saying. I don't know the particulars, but when he's speaking to the police, he does seem very calm. When he was Baker acted, they did diagnose him with PTSD, and a personality disorder, allegedly. The reason I say allegedly is you are not supposed to diagnose personality disorders until someone's at least 18 years old because they are still going through things, especially if he's recovering from PTSD where he was locked in a house for 3 years with a guy that was abusing him. I don't think that's the right time or place to diagnose a personality disorder. That being said, he went back with the mother, and there were a few occasions where he ran away, went to the grandmother's house. The mother's social media presence is basically telling the world everything's fine, we're happy, we're going on trips, we're doing this, we're doing that. And she was giving a lot to Collin in the way of material items. And the fact that he was willing to give all those items up, you know, his Xbox, his car, he was going to college, but he would rather be in jail. So while he was with the father, he was behind 3 years in school. In that 1 year where he was with his mother, he caught up and did 3 years of school in one and graduated early. And he was attending college as a 17-year-old. So he's not a dumb kid. And the mother was telling the police that he was failing all his classes and she was trying to discipline him. So her story was really not consistent with the facts. Whatever transpired with the physical altercation, I don't think he beat the hell out of her. Sounds like he hit her, pushed her back, and she hit the floor. The mother was known for creating false domestic violence complaints to get back at men. So it's kind of her MO. In the context of the moment, they just believed her. But in the context of the trial, when you are looking at this kid that repeatedly asked to be put in foster care, to be taken to jail, to be put anywhere except back with the mother, and they just kept putting him back with her. Now, the night of the killing, he had ran away to his grandmother's house, which is 2.5 hours away, and his mother was saying he needs to be back here at 10 a.m. Then she went to the grandmother's house to get him. Now, the state's case is that there was kidnapping involved. That was one of the charges. And there were a couple of witnesses that saw her pissed off, arriving, slamming the car doors, going in the house. She was grabbing his clothes and throwing them in her car, making a big scene. And at one point, they saw his hand come out and they say kind of grab her by her shoulder and bring her in the house, or grabbed her near the hair. The state tried to make it sound like he grabbed her by the hair and dragged her in the house. The facts do not support that. The facts support that he was more embarrassed and trying to get her in the house to stop making a scene and ushered her inside. Her flip-flops were still on her in the kitchen when her body was found. If he was dragging her by her hair, she probably would have lost her shoe. She would have been kicking and screaming and fighting. She still had her purse with her. If you're being dragged somewhere, you're going to have your purse, you're going to have your flip-flops on. No. I think she went inside. They were arguing. Who knows what transpired exactly? But the fact that there was only a single wound, it did not seem like there was emotionality to the killing at all. In abuse cases where someone is acting out or they finally reach their breaking point, it's usually overkill. And that's not what we saw here at all. When he called 911, he said that she fell on the knife. And when they looked at the wounds on him and the mother, it did appear that she was the one that had the knife first, or she was holding the knife, because he had wounds on his hands that kind of matched that, and he was trying to get the knife from her. That's what the evidence shows. Whatever ensued in that scuffle, she ended up getting the knife in her neck, and that was it. There wasn't really any other violent wounds. The state charged him with first-degree murder, and they had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this was a premeditated murder, and they didn't prove it at all. So if it was premeditated, how did he know she was going to show up at the grandmother's house? If it was premeditated, he would have had to have lured her there, had her come inside, and had this whole thing planned. There's really no evidence at all that suggests that it was premeditated. If you look at second-degree murder, you would expect to see emotionality, rage, an act of anger, and we don't see that either. We see the knife went cleanly into her neck. However that happened, we don't know. inside the house, the scuffle was small and it was confined to that one area in the kitchen. So it wasn't all throughout the house. It wasn't a huge thing where he was dragging her around like the state tried to make it out to be. At the end of the day, he was found not guilty. For the charges that the state brought, I think that is the right verdict. He was diagnosed with PTSD. He is in constant fight or flight. I think his mother did have a tendency to be violent. I think that his life most likely was not in danger, but her pulling a knife on him, if that was something the father often did, is going to trigger a response. He's going to try to get the knife from her. And so Colin Griffith walks free. Colin Griffith has a story. He has a big story that nobody knows the truth. Nobody really knows what went on with him and his father over those years. Nobody really knows the details about the killing of his father. Colin does know, and Colin may have some hereditary traits from the father and the mother. The whole situation is just tragic. I think the state didn't do anything right in this case. They should have never let him go back with the mother. She finally got her kid back and she wanted to make things right, but she didn't seem well. The state felt like the best place for Colin was with the parent, not in foster care, not with strangers. And one thing to remember about this case is that this was a public defender. This crime just happened in September and he's already at trial. So there were no tricks and no orchestration by the defense at all. This was a very straightforward case where they just needed to present the facts. The only witness that they challenged was the grandfather. The grandfather who made the statements that Colin wanted to feel the life leaving her body, etc., etc. But he exaggerated his relationship with Colin and the mother. He did not even go to the mother's funeral. He only talked to Colin a few times in his life. He was largely discredited. And so absent those statements, what do you have? You have a kid that was begging to be taken to foster care, begging to be taken away from his mother. And nobody listened. And then we have a mother who only had custody of her son because the father had died. A mother with a history of violence and manipulation and lies. The state brought this case knowing their burden. And in no capacity does this ever reach the threshold for first-degree murder. Even if everything that the state presented was true and factual, and there was no context to be added, it still does not support the charge of first-degree murder. And so the state has made mistake after mistake in this case. Now, the state could have done the right thing. They could have taken Colin away from the mother and put him in a program and got him help. But instead, they called his bluff and waited for the inevitable to happen.
When the jail was releasing you to your mom this morning, was there anything said, Ben?
Yeah, I said that I didn't really feel safe there with myself and with her, and that I didn't know what was going to happen. I still don't know what's going to happen.
As far as what?
Her attacking me or her doing something to herself or me.
Okay, what about you doing something to her? Are you able to control yourself?
I'm in a constant state of fight or flight, and I don't know. If I think she's going to do something, even if she's not, I might act. I'm not going to go crazy or anything, but I'm not sure, honestly.
But it does seem like this kid needs help, and hopefully he can get it.